So hello and welcome everyone to CBC Sports U, Music and Sports. Truly, it's a winning combination. My name is Elladj Balde and I'm speaking to you now live from Calgary. And I'm glad to see that everyone is letting me know where you are. Toronto, this is great. And keep telling me where you are. If there's people that haven't told me yet, haven't told us yet, that would be great. But the purpose of all of us meeting today and the purpose of being here is to connect, learn, and share. And I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the ancestral land and ancestral territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Siksika, Ghana, Piikani, Tsuut'ina, Iskiya, Nakota Nation, the Métis Nation, Region 3, and all the people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of Southern Alberta. I'm extremely happy to be hosting this panel of people really who've made their career out of fusing music and sports and prove that you do not have to choose one or the other. You can combine both, create magic, and make a career out of it. As a former national team figure skater, I know firsthand the power of sports when paired with music. And now that I've retired from the competitive world, I've used figure skating and music and the power of social media to shine a light on issues that I believe in, really find ways to express myself, and maybe sometimes go viral. Tanya, you can show the video.
Shout out to them people. Mad ethnic right now.
I get it how I live it. I live it how I get it. Come to motherfucking bitches. I pull it with a lemon. Not cause she ain't living. It's just your eyes get acidic.
So there was, that's kind of the video. But enough about me. This is not about me here. Let's get to our panelists, shall we? So, but after a brief discussion with our guests, we'll open up the floors to all of you who are here attending this panel discussion, and we'll get your questions answered. So make sure to ask your questions in the chat throughout this panel discussion. If there's anything that pops into your mind, please let us know, and we'll try to answer them. And also, there's a live transcript available at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you click on live transcript, you'll be able to activate it. So without further ado, let's start introducing our beautiful panelists. So our first panelist, for the past 5 years, she's been a dancer and choreographer traveling the world with Canadian EDM group, A Tribe Called Red. Please welcome Angela Gladue. Angela.
Hello, Sanse.
Hey.
Thank you. Wow.
Thank you for being here. And I'm going to need you to teach me some B-girl moves for my next video. Just letting you know, but we'll get into that later. Next, we have Exmiranda in the house, a rapper, performer who's been making waves and racking up plays on Spotify. And she's been signed by as musical partner for the Canadian Elite Basketball League. And her song, Tell the Time, is featured on their newly released Hype video, which is incredible. So congratulations on the partnership, Exmiranda. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I'm super hyped to share and learn from all of y'all. So I'm just glad. I'm glad to be here.
I like the vibe. I like the energy. This is great. This is what we want. And by the way, everyone who's watching, we're going to show Exmiranda's video at the end of this panel discussion. So make sure you stay all the way till the end because it's something really special. Moving on, we have Adam Burchill, and he is the head of music at TikTok Canada. Formerly with Live Nation and MLSE, he was an integral part in getting Jesse Reyes to perform on top of the CN Tower to open the 2020 Raptor season. Yes, that video, that performance that we all saw, pretty impressive, Adam. But truly, what we all want to know, specifically me, is can you help us get more followers on TikTok? That's
You don't
that's
need
what
you
I
don't,
that's
you
what I
don't need
learned.
any help, man. I spend a lot of time talking about you over here, dude. So I think,
Really? Okay.
yeah.
Well,
It's funny for everybody. This is actually the first time that we've connected, but spend a lot of time talking about you over here. We're very proud of what you do. Very grateful that you do it with us. So I'm stoked to be here with this wonderful panel. And I gotta just try to keep the energy up, like Exmiranda. Yeah, I'm just this is gonna be great. Stoked to be here.
This is going to be awesome. Well, thank you. But either way, we're going to talk later because I feel like, I want to get to those. I would love millions. Millions would be awesome. But anyways, again, it's not about me. It's not about me. This is panel discussion. We're connecting. We're learning. This is great. Our next guest is a music supervisor with Racket Music. And one of his recent projects was bringing the soundscape of the CBC Gem docuseries Anyone's Game to life. And he believes that basketball is a fifth element of hip hop, which I think is extremely interesting. The one and only Mr. Everton Lewis Jr. Thank you for joining us, Everton.
Yo, glad to be here. Happy to be here, guys. Thanks for having me. Super stoked and excited to get to this as well, too. So yeah, let's get
awesome.
it. Yeah.
Cool. Let's do it. Thank you. And last but not least, we have the pleasure to have Eric Radford, a two-time world champion, three-time Olympic medalist in pairs figure skating. He won a bronze medal and a gold medal at the 2018 Olympics in Pyeongchang, and since has retired and is focusing on his music career as a composer. So Eric, I kind of hear that you're working on two albums right now, not one, but two.
Yeah, very slowly, like a classical album and then an electronic album. But I'm super excited to be with all these amazing panelists because I feel like I'm at the very beginning of my music career. So I feel like I have a ton to learn, and so I'm just very excited.
Well, this is great. Well, Eric, why don't we just get right into it? Because I wanna know more a little bit about what you're doing right now, because you're working on two albums. And again, it's not like you're just doing one. So I guess all your years of training and Olympic medals and getting into that space of achievement, you're kind of using that right now to create these two albums. Tell me a little bit about how that process has been for you so far.
Well, I'm sure you can relate to this, Elladj. Like transitioning out of competitive sport is like it's more intense than I thought it was going to be. And it can leave you feeling very lost. And so I just feel very fortunate and very lucky that I've had my passion of music there to kind of catch me in this time. But I mean, the way I kind of view it is I've had like that laser-like focus on this one aspect of my life, which was figure skating for so long. And I'm just kind of taking that same focus in that same direction and just putting it onto music. And it's also been very interesting because I finished my career at the highest point I've ever been. And now I'm going into something completely new, and I find it difficult not to let myself get overwhelmed with my own expectation. And I think that, I need to go a little easier on myself and realize that I'm not going to walk into this, into the music world and just start where I finished in figure skating, But what's really exciting is because it's something it was a passion of mine that I developed. I, took music lessons, piano lessons throughout my skating career. But now it's like I have the time to truly pursue it and to explore it more. And of course, as figure skating is one of the only sports that's done to music. And I think that you develop a raised sensitivity to how music affects people and how it comes across and how it provides an atmosphere and a background to situations. And I think that's kind of tied into my my classical album and the classical side of my composing. The way I write is kind of emotional. I envision something in my mind. I think that's why my music kind of lends itself to skating, and why a lot of people say, "Oh, I could hear this in a movie," because with you're creating that moment on the ice, and that music is also is giving you that baseline and that starting point for the audience of where you're coming from and what you're trying to express to them. So absolutely, I think it's all kind of blending right now, and I feel fortunate not only to have music, but also to be able to use my past career and parlay it into this new career.
I think it's incredible that you're using all these tools and skills that you've learned within your figure skating career and applying them within this new world, this new environment that you're in. And I think, like you said, reevaluating the expectations, I think is an extremely important process to go on, because we can easily get lost in, and we do that in skating and in sports and in everything, in careers in general. We set an expectation, and it's like whenever we don't reach that, or we feel like we're a little bit below that, it's really hard to stay within that realm. So I think it's really important, like you said, to set your new expectations for something that's new. And I find it really interesting too that you've had experience with embodying music through your body and channeling that through your movement. And now I feel like you're using that as well, but with music through your fingers, through what you're doing. You're almost in a space where you're channeling. And I'm wondering, why do these two worlds mesh so well from a creative perspective, do you think?
I think it's that like intersection with dance and music. And I mean, obviously they go hand in hand. Although I'm sure I've seen some amazing like dance pieces that have had no music, and it's just pure body expression. But I think that's something that those two things kind of definitely, as you pointed out, intersect very kind of deep within me. And there's something so beautiful about when a piece of dance and a piece of music, like you really see them connect, and it gets to that point where it's almost like two entities like becoming one, human and music, or even like the composer. And it's almost like, because it's, the music is part of like the composer's soul that's like been laid bare, and then you have the dancer taking that energy and that thought and that expression and like melding it with their expression as well. And when you see the two connect, I think those are the moments that humans live for, where you're just touched so deeply by a piece of art and a piece of work. And I would say that it definitely, in my process somewhere, as I'm sitting there and I'm playing the piano, I am imagining what that phrase feels like, or if I'm going to add some staccatos, like how would that be expressed if it was a skater or if it was a dancer, or however it might be. Like there's definitely a little part of that in my process. And of course, this is something I'm learning about and exploring right now with a lot of curiosity. And but it's something that I have noticed, that as I write, movement, what I imagine the movement might feel like and how it might look to the music is definitely incorporated.
Yeah, and I think it's such an incredible process and journey you're on, and I'm excited to see where it's going to lead you, because again, you have the experience, you have all the tools, and now you're applying it in a different world. But again, you're coming from a different perspective within the composer world. So I'm really excited to see your creation and what's going to come out of your soul. And that actually leads me then to wanting to speak to Angela a little bit, because we're talking about body and movement, and Angela, you're a B-girl and powwow dancer, and for the last 5 years have toured with a tribe called Red. And so clearly music and dance are so ingrained in hip hop culture, but also in your Nehiyaw ancestry. And so how have you seen what you do as a performer spread a message that's beyond just dance, that's beyond just music?
Ooh, what a question. First of all, it's really dope hearing about your careers as skaters, because I used to want to do that when I was a kid, but that's what led me into dancing. Maybe not. You know what? You're right.
I'll teach you.
Right.
You'll be back.
We'll trade. Time. Yeah, we'll do a trade. Sorry, I'm just little. I have my son here with me. He's 3 years old.
Say hi to your son for us.
I will. He'll probably come say hi to you soon. Dancing is something that has really empowered me throughout my life, because I grew up with a lot of social anxiety, and that was due to a lot of things generationally that happened from residential schools. So dancing is something that really just gave me a powerful outlet, because I just had so much anxiety as a child that I didn't really know how to make friends or connect with people. So when I danced, I realized, you know, you can stay on the dance floor all night. You don't have to talk to anybody. And this is how I kind of got my intro into witnessing b-boying in my own community in Edmonton, Alberta, where sometimes you would see dozens and dozens of b-boys that were all Indigenous. And just being influenced in my community is what led me to want to pursue breaking when I was 18. After going through some hardships and struggles as a teenager, I put all my focus into learning about hip hop and b-girling. And also, I started powwow dancing when I was 6 at my school at Prince Charles Elementary in Edmonton, and continued doing that as a teenager. And I was introduced to the Canadian Native Friendship Center, where I would go every Wednesday. My friend Mona Lisa took me to the Canadian Native Friendship Center. I actually met her on the dance floor at a club in Edmonton. I just loved dancing so much. And, you know, I couldn't afford to do sports or anything like that. My family couldn't afford it. But dancing is something that I really took to, because we didn't need, you know, the money to do that. It's just go out and do it. And then you're surrounded by other people who love the music and love the dance. So I met Mona Lisa at one of these after-hour clubs in Edmonton where we just loved house music, and she turned out to be a powwow dancer as well. So she was one of the people who gave me my first outfits, my first regalia. She took me to the Native Friendship Center, where I'd go practice every Wednesday, just like go all out, dance really hard. And eventually they started asking me to teach there. And I would always get little girls and kids and people, you know, asking me to teach them. And so teaching has become one of my passions since I was a teenager. So in this way, I love giving back and love sharing the dance. It's so important for me to give that back, because it wasn't that long ago, you know, our culture, we weren't allowed to perform or do these dances. So it's really special to be able to pass that on, because I've had women in my life, you know, through the school I mentioned, through Prince Charles, like Bobby Joe Cardinal, Bernadette Cote, who taught me my first steps. And I'll always remember that. And just hearing positive encouragement from them, like, oh yeah, that's how you do it. That's the step, you know, feeling really good about it. I don't know, I just love sharing that. So that's one of my passions. And I love going to a lot of Indigenous communities, First Nation schools, and sharing that and sharing hip hop culture as well.
Yeah, and I think it's so interesting, because dance to me, in a way, kind of like when you're composing music or playing music, it puts you in a state where you're so present in the moment that you have nothing that comes into your space that could worry you or bother you, and that can be an extremely healing place to be. And I think that, you know, through what you're doing, I think the purpose of sharing and being the representation for the next generation of kids, and having that as a purpose to dance, but also to heal, I think it's absolutely incredible. And I'm just curious to hear a little bit more as to, you know, how did this purpose come to you, and when did you start realizing really that, you know, this thing that you're doing can be extremely healing, and that you can actually share that and help, you know, heal others through their journey?
The purpose came to me by just seeing other Indigenous people in my community, traveling, sharing our culture, representing in that good way. And that's what I really wanted to do. So from a young age, that's what I know and I wanted to do. And since I started pursuing that in 2003, like really fully being like, this is what I want to do, the doors were continuously opening. You know, I'm very grateful for that. And yeah, I'm grateful for the opportunities with the Tribe Called Red for the past few years to share that with other communities, but also it's been really, really cool to see people in the Indigenous community just light up, especially women and girls. They just light up when we come dance. And we've had opportunities to also bring other dancers on stage and empower them that way. Sorry, I don't know if I'm trailing off here.
Yeah, no, but this is incredible, and what you're doing is so you're so aligned with your purpose and with your mission, and I think it's a beautiful thing, and you're introducing, you know, these ways of moving and these ways of healing to people that might not have known that this is something that they can do as well, and I think that's absolutely incredible. So congratulations on your journey. I think I'm super inspired and empowered from hearing your story, and that actually leads me then to Adam, because Adam has you throughout your career, you have used music to bring people's attention to something they may not have taken notice of, kind of in a way what Angela is doing. So I would just love to hear from your perspective, what that looks like.
Sure. I mean, it ultimately it came from the place of, I was the music guy at a sports company for so long. And, similar to what Angela said, like I grew up really poor. My parents didn't have money, certainly to put me in hockey or anything like that. So I grew up, with mom cleaning the house and the stereo cranked. And, the very early on happy moments of my life come from music. And somehow by a stroke of, I'll call it luck, but 14 years of toiling away in a local music scene, I ended up at this big sports company, and I just knew the value that the arts community played in my life. And I was really inspired by many people that I had met along the way. And I thought, well, what a great way to help bring music to people by connecting it with what we're doing with the teams and in the community. So for me, it was like almost out of necessity that if I was going to stand out, in this big corporate environment, I needed to find a way to do something that was a little bit different. And I was able to use music to be, to do that. And I think, I don't necessarily know about like this idea of like bringing attention to things in like in an always on purposeful way, other than like, I just wanted to make fun for people. That to me was what was really important. And there were some instances along the way where we were able, to use the resources of whatever company I worked at to allow people to have a platform and have a voice. And, you brought up, Jesse on the CN Tower, and that certainly wasn't my idea. That was Jesse and her team. But I had the resources to get the CN Tower and to get the NBA to put it on TV. And, Masai Ujiri and the front office at the Toronto Raptors to say, hell yeah, we want our platform to be used for this type of statement as well. And so to me, it's really just about, as much as possible, giving a platform for other people to tell their stories. I'm in an incredibly privileged state to work at a place with a giant megaphone now. And that's what we want to do at TikTok, is we just want to provide a platform for people to get their stories out there. So from my perspective, ultimately, it just comes down to like, I don't like putting people in a box, and growing up, you're either a jock or a music kid or whatever. And we see that even in music, where this notion, I'm very much against this idea of like a Canadian artist. It's like, no, like we're artists, like we're from Canada, but it's actually really hard to be a Canadian artist because inadvertently you get put in this box of like, oh, you're a Canadian artist. It's like, well, what does that mean? Like, I just happen to live on, the north side of an imaginary line. Like, I'm an artist. Like, why am I any different? And there's cultural differences that impact the art, certainly. But from my perspective, really it all just boils down, like I say, to having other people, have their voice out there, get their stories told, and make sure that the things that are important to them are being said. So I'm grateful that I get the opportunity to do that for a living, and hopefully we'll be able to continue to do that for many years.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting when you're talking about not fitting into a box, not fitting into a mold. I think that's something that in society right now, these molds are breaking as we go through, and I truly believe that TikTok has a huge influence on that, because it has a massive influence also on the music industry as well, and how, you know, and how powerful the music industry is, and how powerful the message of the music industry is. And so I'm curious, from your within your career, your professional path, how did you get to now, you know, being head of music at TikTok Canada? What was your journey like? And because obviously TikTok wasn't really a thing a few years ago here in North America. So, you know, how did your journey lead to that?
I think similar to what some of the other panelists have already said, I'm very lucky to know what my passion is. I loved the arts. I was a theater kid growing up. And again, because I went to public school and it was free, so I just always was blessed to know that I want to make fun for people. And, you know, I spent a lot of my early career just putting in the work. Again, like hearing Angela, in her scene, I just grew up in a scene. I started, going to local music events because they were $5. And so I had something to do. And then friends would start bands. And slowly but surely, as you put in the work, the journey just slowly, it moves you along. I think when people look outwardly, or sorry, from the outside of something, they think that there's these big pivotal things that you need to do. And I actually think it's no, you just put in the work and continually expand your network, put yourself in a position to be in these communities. The momentum builds, and all of a sudden the community has a sense of power that, then other people want to be a part of that community. And slowly but surely, you end up somehow working for a big tech company running music. I just, a lot of people, they'll ask me to have coffee and they want to get into the music business, and how do you do it? And, my advice is always the same. It's find a way to get involved at the grassroots level and just put the work in. And you will be surprised how you go. Again, Angela, your story is so inspiring because you're touring the world. And that came from you going to, just liking to dance. And now you're touring the world, but it wasn't overnight. There's years of just genuinely caring, genuinely showing up, caring about the quality of what you do, right? And I think most people think, no, I'm going to go to school, I'm going to get an internship, I'm going to be in the music business. And now it comes from years of helping other people, and then those people will help you. And all of a sudden you have this opportunity that you didn't see coming. I have this job because somebody I had a conversation with 5 years ago remembered the conversation we had and told the guy hiring, you should talk to Burchill because he's a good dude and he put the work in. Because of somebody that I talked to 5 years earlier. So my advice to everybody listening, if they're trying to figure out, how to get into the professional sports business or get into the music business, is find a way to get involved in the grassroots level and genuinely put the work in and help people, because you'll be surprised when that help will come back to pay dividends to you.
I think that's so powerful. I think that's extremely powerful. And thank you for sharing that, because what I'm hearing so far with all the panelists is, a combination of purpose, passion, hard work, dedication, and also taking actions. When you know where you want to go, taking actions that will lead you there will take you to a space where you'll be able to live from the space that you want to live from. And so far, it's what I'm hearing. And I think it's absolutely incredible. And also, I feel like our next panelist is also what she's been doing and how she's applying these perspectives into her life, because Exmiranda, firsthand the power of social media in bringing your sound to a wider audience. And so my question to you is, how did you harness its power, the power of social media, and use it, for example, to partner with the CEBL?
Definitely. So I'll just start a little bit further back, just to give people the dramatics of how things can shift. Just, Just
we love the
utilizing.
dramatics. We love the dramatics.
Yeah, right. So initially, I would say I started making music, like really taking it seriously, most likely in like 2017, 2018. And I was like getting my things together, like writing songs, putting out content and all of that. I initially started doing a lot of spoken word and doing like a lot of like shows here and there while I was in school. And I would try like so many different online like platforms, like if you're from Toronto, you know, like Six Buzz, like my music would be shared there, and like on other like different hip hop sites, like across, like even with World Star Hip Hop and all those different things. And it made me kind of realize that my audience isn't there, because oftentimes like you present yourself to audiences that are fixed and they're looking for music that doesn't fit your style, or it doesn't really fit the content that you're delivering. And because I have like such a specific sound with the rap and the hip hop I make, and with the genre bending I do as well, it made it where I really had to kind of like hone in and find my own tribe of people who would actually gravitate to me as an artist. So over the pandemic, I started on TikTok, basically like I would say 8 months ago or so, and things just started like taking off for me. And my goal was just being consistent. I really believe that if I just continue and just like constantly put out content and do what I can within the means I have, that things will actually work out. And that's what I did. And eventually things immediately shifted. So before I got on TikTok, I would say on average, I had about 14,000 streams total. And now I'm at like 1 million over just over like a 6 to 8 month span of being on TikTok and kind of like sharing my music and my content. So it's been so dramatic. And I've actually had like SoundCloud like reach out to me asking me to partner with them on different projects. I've been featured on the Spotify Northern Bars Billboard campaign. So that was a ton of fun, where I actually had like my entire family during the pandemic go to Dundas Square just to see myself on a billboard and just dance around. Yeah. So many cool things like that. And just like having like so many contacts and connections, and actually seeing my music grow on such a big level that is beyond my like comprehension has been so wonderful for me personally. And just understanding that, constantly being consistent and understanding that you can find a tribe or a community, no matter the style of content or music or whatever you're passionate about. And in regards to the CBL as well, that was like a great partnership that just came organically through the director, one of the main directors at CBL, reaching out to me. His name is Ansh, and he actually noticed that I was doing a lot of different content online. And in addition to that, I had also tapped in with some of the different members within that space. And that led to us developing such a great partnership. And they also have a wonderful scene that they're developing that integrates sports and music. And it's basically the CBL sound system is what it's called. And it's under the branch of the CBL Life, that lifestyle brand that they're developing. And it's so beautiful to see how music can just mesh with sports, and that there's opportunities to kind of like figure out, just as everyone was saying, like where you fit in and how you can stay authentically yourself and still be able to develop so many strong relationships and partnerships.
Wow. This is so incredible to hear your journey and hear your story. And I actually have so many more questions, and we might have to move on, but I just wanted to quickly ask you one more question, because again, TikTok now has such a massive influence on the music industry. And now it's like when a music goes viral on TikTok, like you said, it goes viral on Spotify and on all these different platforms. So do you create with that in mind now?
Yes, I definitely do. So my goal was, when I started TikTok, was how can I harness this to actually go back into my passion for music? So how can I deliberately get people to listen to my music, check out my content, stream and follow me on Spotify? So from the get-go, that was like my goal. And what I would do is always ensure that I have like a call to action that directs people back to my music. So that was like my intention, where everything I do, even if it's like following different trends, or I'm working with people, duetting videos, or just sharing my music, or telling my story as well. All of that would be related to me as an artist, sharing my journey and my growth, and gearing that all back to my music.
That's powerful, and it's really interesting to see how social media has such an impact now on the music industry. So thank you for sharing that. And next, I want to show a clip from Anyone's Game, the CBC docuseries that Everton handled the music for.
Yeah.
Tanya, go ahead.
Got the keys, I was trapping in my 2-3s. Now you want a piece, now you wanna follow me, riches off the trees. In my city, sold a lot of peas, some 50 G's. Now it's dumb, I hit the lottery. Hey, all these BBs go down, go stupid, acting up, and then we shoot and run loud like a
It's so when music and imagery go together well, it just creates such a powerful emotion, a powerful energy, and I think that's something that you do so well. And before we get into Anyone's Game, I want to know, how did you get into becoming a music supervisor, and what does that look like? Because it's a really interesting world that I don't think a lot of people know about.
Yeah, so yeah, totally. It's a great question. And I mean, firstly, a music supervisor, I'm in the business of licensing and curating music to place over either TV, films, ads, or video games. And like a lot of the panelists have, already discussed with you, it's, a lot of getting into the business was just putting in the work. But, where it really started for me, I was a music producer, and I had helped Shad, who's also a producer on CBC. So I helped Shad produce a song for his album on the old Prince album. And I had taken a sample from the Bee Gees. And after giving it to the label, they're like, oh, wait a minute, there's a Bee Gees sample in here. And it was from at that point where I really started to dive in, behind the whole licensing and the legalities and the ownership in regards to music. And then everything just really started to come together. My journey, to get here to this music supervisor role and running my own company, it started working for a Silicon Valley-based company named Hip Digital, and they were in the business of they were the under the bottle cap pin code guys. So you would get your bottle of Coke, you would go to your Britney Spears store, take off the bottle cap, there was a pin code underneath, go to that music store, put in the pin code, and then you could download, 5 Britney Spears songs. So that even intrigued my interest even more behind, like, okay, well, how is this being done? Like, how are we shopping out this music? How is this being licensed? How are we able to do this? And then it really started to trickle down from there. Just from volunteering from Canadian Music Week for 10 years. And then I decided to really dive into it and start my own company. And in that, started my own company, started taking on a lot of small music clearance jobs and music placements. And then took on some work with Vice Canada. And then that's where I got eventually hired on to head up the music department of Vice Canada. And I was a music supervisor there for 3 years, in charge of all the music that you heard coming out of the Vice Canada office. And yeah, so I mean, yeah, up until now, it's just, since departing Vice, I've started my own company again. And now I'm here just keeping busy, man. In this supervision freelance realm, it's a great space, and I would recommend anybody to jump in if you're looking to get, your feet wet into the music industry.
Yeah, and it's incredible to hear someone speak about being busy in this, in this pandemic COVID world that we're in right now. And so, I think it takes a lot of courage and a lot of dedication and hard work to get to that space where you can be busy within a time like now. And I feel like within the world that you're in, when we talk about hard work, I feel like you need to have a database of music in your head and around you that's just beyond anything that I could even imagine. And that obviously I'm sure it's a lot of pressure. So what are the ways that you apply this hard work and dedication and stay up to date with the millions of songs that come out, what seems like every day?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So that's a big part of a music supervisor's job, and what I personally do, and I can speak for a lot of music supervisors that I know and work with. We have to keep we have to keep a pulse on emerging trends in the industry, what's coming up and what's new, and that is just. It's just a simple grind mode of music. I mean, before the pandemic, it was a lot. You would see music supervisors. We'd be at every single live show of every new and emerging artist that's out there, regardless of the attendance. We're there. It's really keeping your ear to the street on what's new, what's emerging. Is really how you tend to elevate in this music supervision realm. I'm constantly on music publications, reading. I'm constantly downloading new albums. I'm, reading a lot of blogs and things like that as well too. So it's you really got to be in it like 110% all of the time, because the amount of times where you're approached by a production and like, hey man, do you know this song, or what do you think the soundtrack should sound like on this on this particular production? It's a lot easier for us to already have, an idea as to where productions could go and where they could lead to, rather than be like, hey, you know what, let me get back to you. Let me try to figure this out. It's definitely just keeping your ear to the street with all of the new emerging music. And yeah, it's a lot.
It's fascinating. Yeah. It's fascinating. And I wonder also, how do you see a sport and in a moment just know which song to use or how to put that what style and genre to use for a sport?
Yeah, well, I mean, like for anyone's game, like I said, and just touching on what you had, how you introduced me in the beginning of this thing, is just basketball was the easy one. I mean, basketball and hip hop, they just marry so well together. And firstly, just big shout outs to the production team at Anyone's Game. Those guys were great, and it was an absolute honor for them having me to come on board with this, because this is like the ultimate passion project. As a basketball lover, as a hip hop lover, I was just like, you got to be kidding me! This is incredible. But with basketball, and just speaking to that, I've always looked at it as, with hip hop and basketball, like hip hop, you have the four elements. You have, your break dancing, you have your turntablism, graffiti, and then you have like your MCing as well too, just like the MC on the mic. So I always felt that with basketball, it was sort of like, it was your fifth element to hip hop. So right away, it was just fairly easy to disassociate, hip hop and basketball, and really try to search for, again, new and emerging talent. So, we could launch off the series without a hitch.
Yeah, I think it's such a fascinating docu-series, and the way that the music flows through it is absolutely incredible. And just quickly, you talked about basketball and hip hop merging so well. What do you think it is that merges so well between, basketball and hip hop? What's the element that collides so well, that merges so well?
Yeah, I think it was, for a lot of it, and similar to like the other four elements of hip hop, it was an escape for a lot of inner city kids to get out of the hood, essentially. Yeah. So to stay out of trouble and to stay out of violence, and those who came from those rougher environments and where they grew up in, like a lot of youth and a lot of kids, they would turn to to breakdancing. I mean, breakdancing, that that's how it was created. It was created as an an alternative to street violence. You would break and you would battle each other on the street. So yeah, it's the same thing with basketball. I mean, if you look at like in like New York, like Rutgers Park, like, I mean, that level of competition in basketball there, it was essentially an outlet for a lot of youth to stay out of the violence and to stay out of the trouble of the inner city things that just happened. That so that's where I felt where they really mesh together. And I often say all the time, even before working on anyone's game, that basketball was like the missing element of hip hop in a sense, and whatnot. And it's because of those things. So.
Yeah, I resonate with that a lot, and I think your perspective on it is extremely powerful. So thank you for sharing that. Moving on, I want to actually get into questions that some of our attendees had. So I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to open it to anyone. If we're being too silent for 5 seconds, I might just pick someone to answer the question. But whoever wants to answer the question, go ahead. So the first question is from Benedict Rhodes. And the question is, how important is music to the broadcasting of sports on TV? When I think of CBC, for example, one of the first things I think of is the iconic Olympic theme. Should I repeat the question, or? Adam, go ahead. Adam,
yeah, I mean, it's not as it relates to TV, but one of the first things that I say to any artist or manager or anybody at a label that I talk to when they're trying to figure out what TikTok is, I always say that the reason why music has such a profound impact on TikTok and vice versa is because we've taken hundreds of millions of people and turned them into music supervisors. And I think what people tend to forget sometimes about TikTok is that these are filmmakers, and they might not, fit the traditional mold of what people think a filmmaker is, but these are, you yourself know, you spend a lot of time thinking about your shot selection, the way that you're presenting your story and your narrative to the world. So I think, I think it's a really interesting question, and I can, I'd actually be interested to hear what Exmiranda thinks too, because, you are a music supervisor to your own, to your videos, right, in your film. And I think that people sometimes forget that you now have an artistry as a filmmaker because you're using a visual means to promote, an audio art.
Definitely. I would totally agree with you, Adam. Like, I totally echo that. One thing I realized, just like with exploring and like developing and creating content on TikTok, it's become a situation where storytelling and engagement are key factors in every kind of content that I develop. And it's kind of similar to when you're like looking at like what a typical film director would do. You would make sure you have different things that are going to engage audiences within different parts of the entire content you're creating. And in addition to that, you would also have different elements that evoke different emotions as well, and looking at ways where you can actually draw people in on a deeper level and have them connect in order to get people to continuously relate to you or to actually follow through with the call to action. So there's so many elements there where you're being a director in that way, or creating content from that lens of being a film director. And then also with the music supervision, so many times when I'm like putting out music, I actually have to deliberately listen to my songs and take out pieces that I consider would be memorable to a person watching, and would actually draw that person in and give them lyrics that would actually relate to them or emotionally connect with them on some level. So there's so many different things that you're considering when developing content, especially when you get to that place of consistently putting out content and figuring out what's working.
Yeah, that's powerful. Go ahead, Eric.
I was just thinking, and in terms of the question, it kind of reminds me of like music in film. If you, the next time you're watching a movie and there's music in the background, because you hardly ever just zero in on that, it's always that's exactly like in the background. Just imagine it without the music and how greatly that lessens the impact of what you're seeing. And I feel like it's the same thing when, with the Olympic theme, or with any sort of theme, like Indiana Jones theme, the Superman theme, like you hear that song and you instantly can visualize and feel and remember. And adding music to a sport or a moment in sport or a sports story just like increases the impact of that I think in an emotional way. And that's where I think music is so powerful.
Well said, Eric. Well said. I completely agree with you, and I think that it's an important perspective to keep for, especially if when we're within the sport of, within the realm of music and sports. I think it's absolutely incredible. Everton, you wanted to jump in?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add, like, just how important music is for any bit of visual medium, for that matter, but especially with sports. I mean, like us music supervisors, like we like to say that we're sort of like the goosebump dealers in a sense, right? Like, and I'm sure everybody can relate on this panel, and everybody listening in. It's just like, there are moments in TV shows and in sports where if that song it's synced up correctly, you get that goosebump effect, and that's the memorable moment. And for a lot of us here on this panel, and especially as a music supervisor, that's when we know we've really done our job, is when we can invoke that, like those goosebumps that are popping up, make you remember that scene or that particular segment of a sports show.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Everton. Okay, let's move on to the next question. We have about 8 minutes left. So the next question comes from James Tubb. How do you all think sports could better incorporate music to create a better, more interactive product? Anyone?
I can take this just from the perspective of artists, and even referencing CBL partnering with various artists. I think there can be more of an integration of artists as a whole into the whole process of sports and music. And a perfect example is with Damian Lillard, who is also a hip hop artist and also a basketball player as well, where he kind of leverages both of those. And there are situations where I had the opportunity to work with him in the past, and there were really great ways where he was linking hip hop through his own platforms on social media, and connecting that with even providing opportunities as well to artists in the form of performing, engaging, and kind of linking those connections. So I think there can be a direct way of, and even a further way to take music and also sports to the next level by integrating artists on a more deeper level.
I agree. And also integrating artists from the BIPOC community as well, I think, adds a whole layer of depth to music. Very well answered question. Thank you, Exmiranda. Next, we're going to go to Erica. Erica, she says, in terms of getting involved at the grassroots level, where do you see the biggest need or opportunity for a lawyer to step in and help out?
I saw this one in the chat. And my answer is everywhere. Like if you're a lawyer, like people need you. I learned very early on, I was not an artist. I love music. I am not an artist. And I realized, at the same time, artists need a lot of institutional and organizational help, because they're focused on the art. That, not everybody has the same type of, thinking or strategic mindset as it relates to business, in the same way that I don't have, I could not make a song to save my life. Like, I just don't have that type of talent. So I think, to Erica, and I saw it, and I was like, I want to try to get a hold of her after, if I could, give her a piece of advice. Find a place, if it's specific to music or sport, make a list of companies you think you'd like to work at, or personalities that you think you'd like to help, whether they be in the music community or in the sports community, and start talking to people there. And I always say to people, if you want something, you're going to need to add value. Full stop. You're going to need to add value if you want something. And a lawyer can add a ton of value. So make a list of things that excite you, people that excite you, companies that excite you, go to them, explain to them how you can provide value. And I think that you will find it's not going to be that difficult for you.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Adam, for answering this one and for spotting it in the chat. So our last question quickly, and I actually would love to hear from Angela. What is your favorite career moment that you have experienced so far?
Oh my goodness. Geez. That's a hard one.
Yeah.
Everything kind of blurs together, because you're just like in the van, get out of the van, go to the venue. It's a bit blur, but I really enjoyed the Juno Awards, being able to open up the Juno Awards and help curate the dancers. And Buffy St. Marie was a big part of that. She, gave the opening acknowledgement, the land acknowledgement at the Juno Awards, and then Tribe Called Red opened it up. And then just performing on that stage was a big moment because of the type of platform it is, and to have drummers and powwow singers present to just kick off the whole event. It was pretty memorable, pretty amazing moment. And then being in the atmosphere amongst all these incredible artists that are there to win their Juno Awards, it's like, oh, this is cool. I liked that moment. That was a good one.
That's awesome. That must have been a really beautiful and powerful moment. And actually, I'd like to throw to a video of you performing as well. So Tanya, hit it.
Danse, Angela Gladue Nasigason. I am a jingle dress dancer, fancy shawl dancer, and a hoop dancer. Dancing has always been a way of life for me. It has helped me overcome many obstacles and has also fulfilled my dreams of performing in front of big audiences all over the world. My purpose with this dance is to inspire the next generation and pass on this knowledge and confidence that our culture will live on and help others in their lives. My name is Angela and I am a dancer.
It's really powerful, Angela. And thank you for your message. Thank you for your purpose and also for dancing for everyone who weren't able to dance, not too long ago. So thank you for everything you're doing. And lastly, I'm just, I just want to share how grateful I am to have been part of this conversation with all of you incredible panelists. It was a pleasure learning from you and hearing from you. And I'm also grateful for your openness, for sharing your experiences, sharing your stories, and also sharing knowledge and tips and things that could help out everyone watching this panel discussion. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. And also thank you to the audience for joining us for the very first CBC Sports U, music and sports. And I think that, I'd love to hear, I think we would all love to hear what all of you have learned and what inspired you during this session. So, you can tweet at us at hashtag CBC Sports U or tag us on IG stories at cbc.sport. And we really look forward to hearing your thoughts. And then don't forget to head to the next session called Breaking into the Sports Biz when you're stuck at home, which I think is an incredibly powerful one. But before I let all of you go, again, as I promised, we'll show you the Canadian Elite Basketball League hype video that features our panelist, Exmiranda, and her song, Tell the Time.
Up top, Capers. And there's Baker. No way, Jordan Baker does it again. We're underway, a CEBL action.
I'm not the type to make the first grand move. Toss the bait, then I wait for bites. Pescatarian, I pause the pace. Some domestic man in the broader space. Draws a tape like the gun blue blast. Scenario set if you ain't got a cool ass. I'm maybe your wet, fly your aerial jet. Body bare in the flesh, then let your tongue do the task. Clock's ticking, boy, you better be a G.
Oh, stick back, jam,
By the way, you got a minute till you're sleeping on me. Tell the time from the body. These hands, they do not lie. Tell the time from the body.
Who else would end this game but Xavier Moon?
out on the run. They have numbers. Trey Bell Haynes for the win. He does it. Trey Bell Haynes